Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. It's story day. This is the spirit in the bottle from Grimm's. Once there was a woodcutter who saved just enough money to send his son to school so he could have a little better education, maybe not have to work with his hands. But school, like those days, is like now. You run out of money, you can't afford to pay with it. Although the son did really well, he wanted to become a doctor, he had to drop out because there was no more money to fund his education. So he went back to his dad and said, what are we going to do now? And the son said, well, maybe I can work with you. He says, you can't work with me. Your hands you haven't done a day's work in your life. Look how pink and soft your hands are. He says, well, I don't even have an axe if I wanted you to work with me. He says, we could borrow one from your neighbor, then we could work twice as much. And well, against his better judgment, the father did it, got an axe. They went out, and of course, by the end of the first morning, if you've ever worked with tools and your hands are not used to it, they get calloused and sore right away. And the son said, oh, we got to take a break. He says, you haven't even done a day's work. All right, so they broke for lunch, and the son said, well, I'm not going to sit down. You rest. I'm going to go look for birds' nests. And the father said, look for birds' nests? Wait, go on. So the son went out. He's walking a little way or a long way or a short way, or however long it takes in these stories, and he passed by this huge oak tree that you're 10 people holding hands in a big circle. That's how monstrous this tree was, hundreds of years old. Anyway, he passed by the tree, and you know how sometimes you're walking in the forest, the wind can play tricks on you. He thought he heard a voice saying, let me out, let me out. And he was looking at the tree, and it seemed it was coming from the roots of the tree. And so I don't know what you would do, but he used his hands and he scooped the dirt away from the roots. And all of a sudden he saw there was a little bottle in it. It was like a mannequin type of almost frog-like human being jumping up and down saying, let me out, let me out. What would you do? Well, he took out the bottle, pulled the cork out of the top, and all of a sudden, psh, this huge billow of smoke just rang up. And the guy stretched out the genie just like an Aladdin lamp. He said, now I'm going to give you your reward for letting me out. And the young man said, that's great. What's the reward? I'm going to break your neck. So prepare to meet your maker. He said, that's the reward I get for letting you out? He says, you don't think that they put me in that bottle because I'm a nice guy. I'm Mercurius. 1,000 years ago, I said, anyone who lets me out, I'll give them a reward. 500 years ago, anyone. But now, I said, the next person who lets me out, I'm going to break their neck. So get ready. He says, okay, now wait a second. I don't mind meeting my maker, but I got to ask you one question. You really want me to believe that someone as big as you, as boisterous as you, as mean and bad as you was ever in that bottle? If you can go back in that bottle and show me that that was really you, then you can do with me whatever you want. And Mercurius said, oh, you think I don't spit words of truth? And so he pulled himself back into the bottle, and immediately the young boy put the cork back in the bottle and threw it to the roots of the tree, started walking away. And they said, wait. Let me out. I promise if you let me out this time, I will give you a reward. And the boy thought to himself, he's kind of stupid spirit. I fooled him once and probably could fool him again, but maybe he will give me the reward. So he opened the bottle. And Mercurius came out again, and he produced a kind of gauze-like cloth. He said, if you touch this end to anything, it'll heal any wound. And if you touch the other end to any kind of copper or iron, it'll turn into silver of surpassing excellence. The boy said, well, wait here. So he grabbed the cloth and he went to a tree and he hit it with his axe, and then he passed the cloth over it, and it covered up the scar, the hole in the tree. And the boy was convinced. But then, unbeknownst to him, he accidentally put it back in his backpack where it touched the sword, the axe, and it turned the axe to silver. So finally, when he got back to his father, the father says, come on, we have to work. Well, in the first couple of shots with his axe, not realizing it was silver, it broke the axe. The father said, oh, now what you've done. Oh, just go home and leave me alone. And the son said, well, I'm too far in the forest. I don't know where I am. You're going to have to come back with me. And the father was so upset. Anyway, they went back home, and the son immediately went to town, went to the local jeweler, and said, how much is this worth? And he says, this is fantastic silver. I've never seen anything like this. I don't even have enough money to pay you for this, but I'll give you a couple of hundred on account. You can come back and get the rest. He says, that's fine. He went back to his father. He says, how much was that axe? He says, it was 6 groschen. He says, well, here's 12 groschen. Give it to the neighbor, and here's 100 tailors for you. Now you can buy a good house, and you can live happily forever. And he told his father what had happened in the forest. And then because he was independently wealthy, because he could turn anything to silver that was copper or iron, he was able to fund his education. And he did become the most famous doctor in his time, because with the other part of his gauze, he could heal anybody who came to him. And since he didn't have to work for money, he became very well respected. If it wasn't for the fact that death takes us all, he'd still be healing right now. Want to talk about that story? Let me know. But in the meantime, the journaling question for the day, whether or not you want to elevate the conversation with me or anybody else, what brings you down? And how do you accept the down times? And if you do, how do you learn to restore yourself and recover more easily? You let me know that, I'll let you know how I do it. My teacher always says that the body is a laboratory for perpetual research and development. You got to experiment. There are no shortcuts here. There are no vain promises to the gullible and the naive. And although in some ways it takes decades for certain kinds of fruit to develop so you can reap deeper rewards, but there's gifts on the very first day. And these gifts increase, and they're not always anticipated. You can't even imagine what they would be for you, but they transform the person who sees, and not just what you see. So as a result of that, I hope you will continue to articulate your goals carefully, consider the words you choose to articulate your goals, and of course the words you speak to everybody else. And one of the reasons why I say you should watch your words is that you may not realize this, but here's an interesting metaphor. Everybody's in the emergency ward. Everybody's waiting to be taken care of. They may not be bleeding right in front of you and require immediate triage, but most people don't want to see the pain, so they move away from it or they ignore it. But when you're a yogic warrior, you're like a first responder. You go towards it. When you do that, you'll find out you have mental and physical abilities that you never dreamed of, never imagined. So trust the love that you know is in your heart, because it's good, it's very good. And deep down, we are really warm, caring, biosocial beings. So when you make this statement, you're realizing that the healthier you are, the more you're able to support people with loving energy in all your relationships. You don't have to have expectations from forces outside you, forces that you can't control. Just remember, your intentions are your choices, and you have control over what you choose to say and what you choose to do, or what you choose not to say or not to do. So that leads ultimately to what I'm always revolving around. Do you have a spiritual or mundane point of view in your world? Are you dedicated to the quest for the answers to the big questions, or you're just protecting your social, psychological game investment? Do the choices you make open you up or shut you down? Are you willing to take this voyage of discovery, or are you going to knuckle under to the pressure to close yourself off and protect the gains you've already made and play it safe? You just trust yourself, question authority, think for yourself, or do you think that it's only the authority's voice that knows best? Are you really pro-life, which means you have faith in the future and your potential? Or are you obsessed with imaginary dangers, administrative complications and cautions, distrust of the larger system? Remember, your potential in any spiritual game that you play can never be lost. So teach by the clarity of your own example, not by pointing out to other people what's wrong. And I hope you're able to say that joy, happiness, and cheerfulness are your normal states of mind. So I hope that you all end up more loving and more understanding as a result of your own joy, happiness, and cheerfulness. So that when you wake up in the morning, go to sleep at night, or any time during the day, you can say, I am a divine center for goodwill, radiating it and infecting all those about me with good humor. May it ever be so.